So as soon as you're done with your whiteboarding session as a presenter, you'll end up right back here on your dashboard. ShareTheBoard saves the contents of your whiteboarding session as part of something we call board memory. Those contents appear for you here on the dashboard in this area called auto-saved content. If you started your session using the big blue button, those contents will appear with this default name called Quick Start Session, but you can edit that easily just by clicking the button and then naming it whatever you'd like. A couple more things about what you'll find here on the dashboard, besides the name of your session, when it took place. You'll find the number of frames. This generally corresponds to the length of your session, but I'll explain a little bit more when we actually go into the board memory itself. You have the ability to copy link to a given board memory, so it's easy to distribute access to it for your viewers afterwards. You can set a password or delete that board memory. Now, why would you want to delete a board memory? So depending on which plan that you have of ShareTheBoard, you'll have anywhere from 5 to really an unlimited number of board memory slots. Each slot corresponds to a whiteboarding session, beginning and an end. You can see in this case, I have 50 slots in my plan and I've used 36 of them. At any given time, if a session is not useful for me, like this test session was, I might want to delete it so that I can free up some slots for further memory. If I don't do that and I reach my maximum, let's say if I have only 10 slots, then when I get past that maximum by my 11th session, ShareTheBoard will start clearing out the oldest session, right? So in that case, the first session would have been deleted and the 11th one would have been saved. For a given session, if you don't want it to be deleted automatically or accidentally by yourself, you can always mark it as favorite, and then it remains as saved. Just remember that if you mark as many slots as you have as favorite, then effectively board memory won't work. It won't save anything new since all the slots will be full. If you're using the team or enterprise versions of ShareTheBoard, you can also share your content from any session in a secure way with other members of your team. And that content appears in this shared content tab here on your dashboard as well. Okay, so we covered where the content appears. Now let's talk about the board memory itself. So if you click on any one of these, the titles of the board memory slots, it'll take you to this fully interactive instant replay of your session. So you can see here sort of a play-by-play moment by moment capture of everything that happened during this whiteboarding session. Here I was having a demonstration of ShareTheBoard effectively, and some members of my audience were contributing content. They were playing around with annotations. All that is captured, regardless of who's writing it. It's all captured here, step by step. Each one of those steps is a frame. So in this case, you can see this whiteboarding session consisted of 30 frames, but sometimes it might consist of 1, sometimes it might consist of 500. It kind of just really depends on how long the session is and how much is happening on the board. Something else I'll call out here is that you can see as we're going through this timeline view, some of these frames are marked with one of these little bookmarks. And what these bookmarks do is identify something called a key frame. Now, ShareTheBoard is actually smart enough to identify these keyframes for you. You'll notice, so here's a good example. I was writing a simple table on the board, and this is the moment at which that table was complete. After that, I started erasing it, and that's what it looks like. So ShareTheBoard knows this is a keyframe. This is a point at which that thought, in this case, this table was complete, and it identifies it as such. Why that's important is that when you send a link out to board memory after your session, you and your viewers have the ability to look at keyframes only, and in doing so can look at a much shorter view of the entire session. So even though I had 30 saved frames here, if we just look at keyframes, it's down to 5 or 6. I, as the presenter, can also identify other frames as keyframes or unmark keyframes as such, and I can do that easily by clicking on them individually here. I can also do that here in gallery view. Gallery view is very useful, especially if a very long session, and it's sometimes visually easier to see where those thoughts are complete, right? So here again is that moment when I'm writing the table, and sure enough, this is the point where that table is done. That should be the key frame. So gallery view makes it easier to identify those key frames, which effectively allows you to kind of curate this view before you send it out. Other ways that which you could use board memory to make it really useful for yourself and for your team beyond sending a link to the board memory, whether or not it's curated, you can distribute the contents of your board memory in a number of different formats. So it might make sense to save all of your keyframes as a PDF, right? Or if you had a really complex drawing, save it as an SVG, as an editable vector graphic that you can then continue to edit in the appropriate software after your session. Something else you can do that makes board memory really useful is take advantage of our intelligent transcription feature. So it's nice enough to kind of capture the moment, capture that visual context of how that moment came to be, right? Thanks to board memory, and save it in a number of different formats. But a lot of times the content that we write on the board is the content that we actually want to use, to leverage, to use in some other way. Here's a simple and silly example, a very simple table. And using our intelligent transcription, I'm able to capture its contents not only digitally, but in the correct format. So hopefully this will work. And with this one click, there you go. You can see that ShareTheBoard is able to identify not only the text that appears on this slide, but the fact that it is a table, and therefore downloading should be made available as a CSV. So I could, in this case, download it as a spreadsheet and continue to edit it after my meeting. Here's another example, again, kind of a silly one, but possibly indicative of the type of content we save during a session. In this case, it's a flowchart. Intelligent transcription is able to identify it as such, making it really easy for you to, again, download, continue to edit, effectively bringing your whiteboard into your otherwise digital workflow. So that's it. If you are not familiar with some of the concepts covered by this video, go into our FAQ section. There's a lot of great articles and videos there. But if you still have questions, reach out to us. We'll be happy to do a free consultation and answer all your questions live. Thanks.